Today, I'm going to talk to you all about something I first discovered 25 years ago and something that's helped me grow products to billions of people around the world since then. Something called the viral loop. I'll walk you through a few chapters of my life over the last 2.5 decades where I've used the viral loop to help drive growth. And it's my hope you'll be able to walk away from this with something that you can take that will help you drive growth and impact the world in a positive way. So my story begins in 1999, 25 years ago. I was a sophomore at Harvard studying physics and chemistry. This was about 5 years before Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook from his dorm room at Harvard. And my roommates and I decided to build a website called datesite.com. It was a crush site. It let you figure out who had a crush on you, and you could match up with people you had crushes on. And within 1 week of launching on Valentine's Day of 1999, over a quarter of all the students at Harvard had signed up for it. Unfortunately, it didn't help me get a date. And unfortunately, it did not become Facebook, but it was still a really fun project to work on back when I was in college. So how did it grow so fast? How did it get to 1/4 of all the students on campus within 1 week? Well, it got there because of the viral loop. And here's how I'd explain the viral loop in the case of DateSite. Step one, you'd see an email that said someone has a crush on you. Step two, you'd click on that email and you'd sign up. Step three, you would use DateSite. You'd put in email addresses of people you had a crush on. And step four, when you'd enter those email addresses, your friends or your crushes would get emails saying somebody has a crush on you, and the loop would repeat. They would then see that email, and they'd go through the same loop. And it turns out you can actually mathematically measure something called the K-factor, which I'll get into shortly, which is a way of measuring how viral your site is. And if you get that K-factor above 1, you see exponential growth. And that's what allowed DateSite to grow to a quarter of the students within 1 week. After Harvard, I went out to Stanford for grad school, and while I was there, I took a class on building Facebook apps. And the professor of our class said, we'll grade you based on one thing, how many installs your app gets. So I teamed up with a couple of classmates, and we built an app called Send Hotness, which let you send hotness points to your friends, and you could see how hot you were relative to all of your other friends. You may see a common theme of some of the things I built back when I was in college and grad school. Unfortunately, I didn't get any hotness points, but a lot of other people did. In fact, Send Hotness grew to 5 million people in 5 weeks. So it grew pretty quickly. And this was Send Hotness's viral loop. In the case of Send Hotness, starting with X, or the conversion rate, about 20% of people who got hotness points decided to install the app and give it a try themselves. Y, the engagement rate, I think about 50% of those people who signed up actually started sending hotness points to their friends. And then Z, the invitation rate, on average, people who started sending out hotness points, they were pretty generous with them, and they'd send them out to like 14 friends on average. And if you multiply X times Y times Z, you get your K factor. In the case of Send Hotness, the K factor was 1.4. You don't have to be much above 1, just a little bit above 1, and you get exponential growth. And you saw on the prior slide, a K factor of 1.4 was enough to help us grow to 5 million users in 5 weeks. After Stanford, I decided to start a company called Friendly, friend.ly. And Friendly was a more real company. We were a social question and answer site. But in reality, we were actually another dating site in disguise. So we used questions and answers as a way to get to know new people. You'd answer questions about yourself, you'd ask other people questions about themselves, kind of using it as an icebreaker, as a way to meet new people. Friendly grew to over 25 million registered users. And in the case of Friendly, we actually had a handful of viral loops. These bullet points on the right were all different viral loops, each which had their own K factors, most of which were above 1 in terms of that K factor. And they compounded on top of each other to help us grow to 25 million users. We ended up selling Friendly to Facebook. The reason Facebook acquired Friendly was basically to put me in charge of international growth at Facebook so that I could start using some of these growth techniques to help drive growth at Facebook. So I went to Facebook. This photo was taken on the day we crossed 1 billion monthly active users at Facebook. Zuck said it was the proudest day of his life. This was the growth leadership team. He had us all over at his house and barbecued for us on that day that we crossed 1 billion users. Interestingly, over half these people, or I think about half of them, are still at Facebook today, 12 years later, which really says a lot for Facebook and Zuck's leadership there. So I wanted to share one example of something we did at Facebook to help make Facebook's viral loop more effective. And the example I'm going to share today is something we did in Japan. Because when we looked at our data in Japan, Facebook wasn't really growing in Japan. It was one of our slowest growing markets. And we weren't exactly sure why, but when we looked at the data, we saw that people were not inviting their friends in Japan. Compared to other countries, the invite rate, this share step of the viral loop, it was broken. Something was broken. And when we dug into it, what we realized after speaking with our country manager in Japan is that people in Japan felt like it was rude to send invites. Just culturally, it was not an acceptable thing to do. So we actually just tweaked the copy a little bit. Instead of saying, invite friends and send an invite, we said, hey, let your contacts know you're on Facebook, notify your contacts. Literally just a simple copy tweak. And when we made that copy tweak, we saw that 4 times as many invites started getting sent out every day. And Japan went from one of our slowest growing markets to one of our fastest growing markets. And here's a photo where Zuck and I were celebrating hitting 10 million members in Japan shortly after we did this. After Facebook, I went to Uber. During the 4 years that I was at Uber, I started the growth team there and later ran the product team there. And during the 4 years I was there, we went from doing about 20 million trips over the course of a year to doing over 20 million trips every weekend. And I wanted to share a couple of examples from Uber in terms of things we did there to drive growth. The first example I want to share is on the rider side. And actually for this example, I want to zoom in on something we discovered in India, which is that a lot of people who were signing up for Uber in India weren't actually ever taking a trip. And when we looked into it, what we found was a lot of people were not entering their credit card when they signed up for Uber. And when we talked to our team on the ground there, they said, look, a lot of people in India, first of all, don't have credit cards. Or if they do, they don't want to enter their credit card number in this app that they've never heard of. And so we did something that was pretty controversial at the time. Our CEO, Travis, was actually pretty strongly against it because he said part of what makes Uber so magical is you never have to take out your wallet and pay for a ride in cash. But we had so much conviction that if we did that, more people would successfully take a trip that we ran a little experiment in Hyderabad and we said, why don't we let people sign up for Uber without entering a credit card and let's let them pay for their ride in cash. And what we found was when we did that, twice as many people who started to sign up successfully completed their first paid trip. And not only that, but a lot of those people later entered a credit card number for their second or third trip. So it wasn't necessarily that they didn't have a credit card, it was just that we removed the friction of having to enter that credit card number. So after we ran the experiment in Hyderabad, we had a meeting with Travis, we showed him the data. He said, I hate you guys, but I love you guys. Let's do this everywhere. So we rolled this out across all of India and a bunch of other emerging markets as well. The other example I want to share from Uber is on the driver side. As a two-sided marketplace, we had to grow both our riders and our drivers. And on the driver side, one thing we saw as a bottleneck was a lot of people weren't even aware that they could sign up to become a driver. And what we decided to do here was we thought, what if we just put a call to action in the rider app encouraging riders to sign up and become drivers? And so just by adding that little link in the rider app saying earn by driving, you click on that, you can sign up and become a driver. We saw as many new drivers signing up every week as we did from all of our paid marketing combined. So just adding that one little link was a huge growth driver for us on the driver side. And we actually tended to be supply constrained, so growing drivers was, in most markets, even more important than growing riders was. After Uber, I moved back to Boston with my family. In Boston, I discovered Whoop, a wearable that helps me sleep, train, and recover. This photo on the left is my brother and me at the Whoop headquarters testing out some of the Whoop hardware at Whoop Labs. I also ran my first Ironman and ended up winning it at Ironman Lake Placid back in 2018. And I fell in love with Whoop, so much so that I joined their board about 5 years ago, and more recently, about a year ago, joined the company full-time, and I'm now their chief product officer. And as you can see in these photos, there are quite a few other people who find Whoop to be a useful product, people ranging from Michael Phelps to Patrick Mahomes to Cristiano Ronaldo. And some might argue that growing Facebook or even growing Uber doesn't necessarily make the world a better place. And as I thought about what do I want to do next, what do I want to grow next, I was thinking about what's a product that is undeniably a product that makes the world a better place. And just from my personal experience with Whoop, I'm living a healthier life. I've changed my behavior in a lot of positive ways. And I believe this is a product that will help people live longer, healthier lives. And it's a product that I want to help more people in the world experience. So that's why I decided to go to Whoop. And I'm spending a lot of my time these days thinking about how to drive growth at Whoop, how to build viral loops at Whoop. And that's what I wanted to share today. So thank you for listening to my talk. I hope that you were able to get some ideas that will help you grow products that make a positive impact on this world. Thank you.